show. So go check those out. They're very cute. And at intermission, we will be doing a 50-50 raffle.
Currently, we are in our 2017-2018 membership campaign. In your playbill, you'll see a loose leaf flyer. It tells you the different levels of membership, tells you what shows we are doing next year, and what comes with that membership. Speaking of next season, our shows for next year, we're pretty excited about this, are The Odd Couple, the female version. That will be directed by Kayla Dixon, who is stage managing tonight. Auditions will be at the end of July. If you'll check out, go follow our Facebook page, Waycross Area Community Theater, and all the information will be posted there as to audition dates and times. So just watch that. Our Christmas show will be Yes, Virginia, There is a Santa Claus. Our musical this year is The Addams Family, and we will close out our season with The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Little theater etiquette, please. No flash photography. Silence your cell phones, please. And if you do take pictures, we ask that you dim the light on your cell phone so it doesn't bother the people around you, behind you. We would appreciate it, and so would they. Oh, also, there are some funny moments. Please feel free to laugh. These guys feed off of that. And when there's not laughter, they get worried. And we have to assure them, oh, they loved it. They were telling us how great it was when they left. Okay, because nobody laughed. So please, if you find something funny, laugh. And it energizes them on the stage. So we thank you for coming. We ask that you sit back, relax, and welcome to Green Gables.
Noon of a day in early summer.
Miss Minnie! Miss Minnie! What could be delaying her?
I'm here, Miss Remsen. I'll be right in.
Ah, you've brought the mail, I see.
I'm so terribly upset. It's a wonder I remembered to think of the mail. Anyone else in my position wouldn't have.
Why? What's the matter now?
The same thing that's always the matter. It's that Anne.
You mean Anne Shirley? What's she done now?
You mean what hasn't she done? I haven't had one peaceful day since she was admitted into this orphanage. And what's more, I wouldn't expect to have one if she's allowed to stay here.
That isn't answering my question, Miss Minnie. Has Anne been impertinent to you?
No, can't say that she has. But I wouldn't mind that so much. It's that terrific imagination of hers. I haven't seen anything like the way Anne can imagine things. I've gotten so now that every time I see her, it just boils inside like jam.
Poor Anne.
Poor Anne? Poor me, you mean. I'm the one that has to bear the brunt of her flights of fancies. I'm the one that goes among all the children and quiets them after Anne Shirley's have frightened them to death.
It's true. Anne does have the most vivid imagination. But I'm hoping with some encouragement and her gratitude to us, she'll soon learn to think of things in a more normal way.
You and I won't live to see that day, if it ever does come.
Oh, come, Miss Minnie.
I tell you, I know what I'm talking about. Didn't you hear that disturbance inside just a few minutes ago?
Well, I heard a few of the children scream, but it's all quiet now.
Thanks to me. If I hadn't gone in there when I did and quieted the children of their fears, some of the little ones would be trying to get outside by now.
Well, for goodness sakes, what happened?
It was Anne again, of course. Do you remember that little silver bracelet with the jade stone set in it that Katie Barth wears?
Of course. She's had it ever since she came to us. An inexpensive little trifle.
The excitement Anne caused over that bracelet was not trifling, you may be sure.
Well, what did Anne do to Katie?
It seems Katie mislaid her bracelet as Anne had seen it. Anne became quite thoughtful for a moment, and then her imagination started to work. She gathered all the children around her and half frightened them to death.
But how?
She told them that the bracelet came from China, and she was certain that the Emperor of China wanted it back because it had once belonged to a famous ruler. She even manufactured the name of a Chinese empress, whom she claimed owned the bracelet originally.
Well, there's nothing about that to frighten anyone.
Oh, isn't there just? Wait until you hear the rest of her tale. Anne impressed on them that the emperor was so insistent on having the bracelet back that he even sent a Chinese killer right here to the orphanage to kill each and every one of them until the bracelet was discovered and brought back to China.
That is just absurd.
Not to the children, it wasn't. Anne has such a convincing manner when it comes to her imagination, she'd impress a grown-up, to say nothing of a group of little ones. You should have seen them. They were livid with terror.
I suppose I'll have to speak to Anne about this.
Much good that will do. I've been speaking to her since she came here. I just scolded her severely for frightening the children so outrageously, and what do you suppose she had to say?
I'm sure I don't know, but I'm certain she was penitent.
Penitent, nothing. She looked directly at me and said she hoped one day I'd enlarge the scope of my imagination. I tell you, Miss Remsen, if you don't get Aunt Shirley out of here, I'm going to have a complete nervous breakdown.
Well, what's this? It's a letter from that nice Mrs. Spencer.
The one that adopted little Peter Stevenson a few weeks ago?
Yes, that's right. She's coming here for another child.
A little sister for Peter, perhaps?
No, this is for a friend of hers, family by the name of Cuthbert. They do want a girl. She'll tell me more about it when she arrives. And that should be any minute now.
Do you suppose they take Aunt Shirley off our hands? Oh, if only they would. I'd begin to believe in miracles again.
Well, I suppose that we could convince her that Anne's the girl for them. But you know, Miss Minnie, I'd rather hate to see her go. I know I'd be lonesome for her.
You what?
She's had such a hard time, ever since infancy. And she's such a hard worker, there is no task too big for Anne to attempt.
You're right about that. And all her attempts in the same way, destructively. She heads the list of folks who make mistakes permanently.
But she's such a whimsical child. And she really does try. I'm sure she doesn't upset the other children deliberately.
Ah! Stop that, I say! Stand still and be quiet!
I wonder what's going on now. Miss Minnie, can you go and see to that, please?
I can tell you in advance what's going on. Anne has the other children upset again. If only I was superintendent of this place for just 1 hour, that'd give me time enough to get Aunt Shirley out of here.
Oh, but it wasn't my fault. Really, it wasn't, Miss Minnie. Haven't you any imagination? Let go of her and come with me now. It's time Miss Remsen took a hand in things.
I didn't do anything, Miss Florence. Honest, I didn't.
Release her, Miss Minnie. I'll tend to this.
Nice carryings on here, I must say.
Stand here, Anne, and tell me what this is all about.
It's not about anything, Miss Florence. Honest, it's not. I'm afraid I'm just hopelessly old-fashioned.
What?
Well, see, I never can get Teeny Williams to bathe herself properly, and I'm afraid I don't like children much unless they're more or less washed.
Well, I never.
Sit down, Anne. You too, Miss Minnie. Give me the details of this latest uprising.
Poor Teeny Williams has her skin rubbed off, and all the other children are afraid the same thing would happen to them.
I do try to instill Teeny with a desire to be more antiseptic, but I'm afraid that I don't make any headway. She just enjoys being mediocre.
I think the word is mediocre, Anne.
Miss Florence, you always know exactly what I mean. That's why you're so conducive.
What's that?
Miss Florence allows herself to use her imagination. That's why you're such a kindred spirit.
Well, I like that. Kindred spirit, indeed.
Oh, I didn't mean that any way unkind, Miss Minnie. I'm sure you could be as nice, well, almost as nice as Miss Florence, if you just use your imagination more.
My imagination suits me, young lady. I have enough of it.
Oh, but we mustn't ever be satisfied with ourselves. If we are, how can we girdle our ambitions? I do try to like people and be matey, but that's hard to do when you're so young. And then again, there are times we're inclined to be too disappointed too quickly.
And I need to...
Don't you think one suffers more when they're awfully old and grown up like you and me?
Anne, would you like to leave this place?
You mean you're going to take me with you when you go on vacation? Oh, that would be thrilling.
Oh, no, that's not what I meant. Mrs. Alexander Spencer is coming here today to pick out a girl to place in a good home to be legally adopted. Would you like to go with her if she chooses you?
Did you say her husband's name was Alexander?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, then he must be a leader among men, because I read him in Alexander in history. I wonder if they were related. Anybody with the name Alexander would have to have loads of scope for the imagination.
Well, you see, the girl that Mrs. Spencer chooses won't be living with the Spencers, Anne. She'll be living with a family by the name of Cuthbert.
I wonder what their first names are, and if they'd be kindred spirits. I do want people to like me.
I don't see why you don't do something about it then, instead of getting into all sorts of scrapes and being a burden to everyone.
Oh, Miss Florence, have I been a burden to you? If I have, I haven't meant to be. Maybe I'm just too intensive.
You do everything if you ask me.
That will do, Miss Minnie. And of course you haven't been a burden, but you really could try to curb your enthusiasms.
I do try, but I'm afraid it's hopeless. You see, I'm so homely, and I know it must be an awful trial for people to be around me because I'm so ugly. But then I just start to imagine that I'm beautiful.
And we really don't have much time. Would you like to go with Mrs. Spencer?
Do you think the people will let me have a white dress with puffed sleeves? I've always longed for a white dress with puffed sleeves.
The idea. Such foolishness.
Anne, why don't you go and get a few of your things together, get your hat on, and that way you'll be ready to go at a moment's notice when Miss Spencer arrives.
Oh, Miss Florence, I'm so glad to be alive. It's as if I were embarking on a great adventure. But don't you think I ought to change my name first?
Change your name? What for?
Something more romantical. Something like Cordelia. I've often imagined that I was Cordelia Shirley, and a royal knight in armor was attracted to me by my name, and he rode up on a purple horse.
Who ever heard of a purple horse?
Well, I'm afraid if you won't use your imagination, I'm afraid I can't help you.
You help me, huh? That's good, that is. You'd better start trying to help yourself, miss.
Anne, go and get your things together, dear. I'll send for you when Mrs. Spencer arrives, and I'm ready for you to meet her. And Anne, do try to be on your good behavior for the rest of the day.
Oh, you needn't worry about that. I'll be as quiet as we always pretend to be when Miss Minnie comes to the dormitory at night.
Oh, dear.
Cordelia Shirley? Purple horse? What next?
Oh, that's Mrs. Spencer now. Do show her in, Mrs. Minnie.
I do hope Anne stays out of scrapes while Mrs. Spencer is here. Mrs. Alexander Spencer to see Miss Remsen.
Mrs. Spencer, it is so good to see you again. Do sit down. I hope you're well and enjoying your adopted son.
Well, I'm as well as can be expected, but I do suffer from something terrible, from shortness of breath. Have you ever suffered from that?
Miss Minnie has suffered from a few ailments over the years, but shortness of breath has never been one of them.
Mr. Spencer says he can never tell when I'm short of breath. But you know how men are. Just because I don't go around complaining all the time, he thinks I'm as healthy as can be.
Well, this girl that your friend wants to adopt, did they happen to say how old of a girl they were looking for?
She didn't tell me anything. I haven't seen Marilla in ages. You see, she lives miles and miles away from me. But Nancy, you know Nancy Spencer. She's my husband's niece. And a quite flighty girl if there ever was one. Though, I shouldn't say considering she's relation. Oh dear, I'm just so short of breath I can hardly talk at all.
Well, are these Cuthberts in a position to care for and educate the girl?
Oh yes, indeedly. Matthew Cuthbert has a tremendous farm and is quite well fixed.
And does his wife want to take in a little girl to raise?
His wife? Matthew Cuthbert ain't got no wife. He has a sister by the name of Marilla, and she runs his life for him. She would never allow him to see a girl, much less court one. Whatever Marilla says, goes. She runs the roost. If I wasn't so short of breath, I would tell you more about her.
Well, what sort of disposition has this Marilla?
The wrong sort? If there ever was a person whose milk of human kindness got soured in her veins when she was young, her name was Marilla Cuthbert. She ever forgot to be so glum and stern, she'd be so angry she'd never forgive herself. Now Matthew, her brother, is just the opposite. But it doesn't do him no good since he's never expressed an opinion of his own in his life. He wouldn't dare. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just so short of breath I can barely talk.
Perhaps it's just possible that this Miss Cuthbert has changed since you last saw her, isn't it?
Change? Marilla Cuthbert change? I'd like to see the person who can make her over. Now, I'm not saying that she's not a respectable, hard-working lady who's never missed a church service, and she contributes regular to the Ladies' Aid. She's never had any gaiety in her life and isn't going to let no one around her either.
A proper spirit, I'm sure. Sounds as though she'd be successful with a girl like Anne.
Anne? What kind of girl is she? Nothing wrong with her, is there? I ain't aiming to do anything that's going to bring Marilla's rap down on my head. If Nancy wasn't such a rattle-brained girl, I'd have her tell me just the sort of girl Marilla wants to adopt. Oh, dear. I can barely speak a few words. Now, I don't want to send Marilla any girl that isn't well-behaved and ladylike. You understand.
Well, you've nothing to worry about on that score, Mrs. Spencer. Anne is a perfect little lady, although she does talk a lot.
She does? I'd like to say that's in her favor. I wish I could talk as much as I'd like to.
Well, Anne has only been with us for a few months, but she is a very hard worker, never shirks a responsibility, always willing to help bathe and wash the children.
Yes, indeed, I can vouch for that. She's so thorough when she washes them, she rubs her skin off.
Well, she had plenty of chores to do when she gets to the Cuthberts. They have a mighty big place called Green Gables, and Marilla keeps it as clean as snow. She told that Nancy to give me a message, but of course Miss Nancy forgot all about what it was. It's a wonder she remembered to tell me that Marilla wanted to adopt a girl. Oh dear, I have the worst awful pain every time I try to say a few words.
Miss Minnie, perhaps you should go and get Anne now. I just know that Miss Spencer will fall in love with her at first sight.
Yes, she will. And the more she sees the little dear, the more she'll love her. She's so restful and quiet.
Mercy days! What was that?
Oh, Miss Florence, I didn't mean to do it.
And who was that?
Anne, what is it? What's happened?
Oh, Miss Florence, I'll have to stay here forever for making up for breaking your favorite vase.
You broke the glass vase on the mantle?
Yes. You see, I was so excited about going to a home of my own that my imagination just started running riot. I imagined that I was a great queen, giving a farewell speech to all my little subjects. And of course I had to have a scepter. So I just picked up that tall vase off the mantle and started waving it around. And that's when it fell out of my hand and crashed into a million pieces. Isn't it too tragical for words?
You mustn't be too upset, Anne. It's not as though you did it on purpose.
Oh, Miss Florence, I'll never forget you. Never.
Oh, Anne, this is Mrs. Alexander Spencer. She's come to take you away with her if she likes you.
Do you suppose the lady you're taking me to will let me have a white dress with puffed sleeves?
Well, I can't say as to that, Anne. She had plenty for you to do, that I can tell you.
I won't mind that. Where does she live, this lady?
In Avonlea, a place that's always been called Green Gables.
Oh, Green Gables, how gorgeous! I can just picture it. It once belonged to a great king and queen. She was real beautiful and had spun gold hair that flowed down from her alabaster brow. And what is an alabaster brow, anyways? Never have been able to figure that out.
I'm gonna go check and see if the other children are okay. I don't want them to cut their hands on the broken glass.
Thank you, Miss Minnie.
Well, I can see that you're a great talker, Anne, and you do use a lot of big words too, don't you? As strange as it may seem, I like to hear you talk.
Oh, I know we're gonna get along just fine. Why, it's such a relief to be able to talk when one wants to, and not be told that young folks should be seen and not heard. I've had that said 1,000 times. And people laugh at me because I use big words. But when you have big ideas, you have to use big words to describe them, don't you?
Well, I don't know how Miss Cuthbert would take you in. It just might be that you can talk her down. But I doubt it. She hasn't got much to say, but when she does speak, everyone jumps.
Oh, I won't mind that. From your descriptions, she sounds like she has a definite personality. And I don't like people much when they're wishy-washy. Do you?
Marilla is definitely all right. And I don't know how you'll get on together. But that'd be the same risk no matter who I sent her. And since she's asked for a girl, it might as well be you, I suppose. Whew, if I wasn't so short of breath, I'd like to ask you a lot more questions.
I am sure that Anne can tell you anything you want to know on your journey.
I'll send a telegram to Matthew to meet you at the end of your train.
You mean I'm gonna ride on a train all by myself? Oh, how thrilling! I can just imagine that I'm on my own fiery chariot, and I'm going forth to find out answers to all the questions I've had. There must be thousands of them. And I'll just imagine that I have on the whitest dress, with the widest puffed sleeves, and everyone is admiring me for my beauty. Although, I know that I'm ugly, and no one will ever want to marry me, except maybe a foreign missionary.
Anne, why would you say a foreign missionary would want to marry you?
Well, they can't afford to be too choosy now, can they? Oh, when I think of getting on a train, it makes me glad to be alive. But am I talking too much? I can always stop when I put my mind to it. Although, it is a bit difficult.
Oh, I have never heard the beat of it. It just might be that you can talk my Alexander down, and he thinks I talk too much. Well, come along, child. Get talked out now, because I don't know if you have time to talk when Miss Marilla Cuthbert puts you to work.
Goodbye, dear Florence. Parting is such sweet sorrow. I'll write to you every day, and oh, this is all so conducive.
Well, goodbye, Anne. Do try to be good and do what people tell you. Goodbye, Mrs. Spencer.
She's saying her goodbyes to the children now. In just a few minutes, we'll be rid of her forever.
Poor Anne. Poor little orphan. I really can't help but pity her.
I pity the poor Cuthberts that are going to take her in to raise. She's going to make their lives miserable with her eternal chatter.
Well, there is one thing that even you can't deny, Miss Minnie.
What's that?
Wherever Anne Shirley goes, there is never a dull moment.
Late afternoon of the following day.
Oh, Mrs. Barry, do come in, won't you?
I'll come in, but I can't stay long. I'm on the way to the station.
Do come in and sit for a while. Matthew isn't here today.
You know, you're the second person to acquaint me with that fact, Miss Marilla. I ran into Rachel Lynde as I was driving along.
How on earth did that woman find out that Matthew isn't here? Oh, that's a foolish question to ask. That woman knows what a body's doing before they even think about doing it.
She does seem to know a great deal.
She's the worst busybody I ever saw. You'd think that with 8 children, she'd have enough to do to keep her mind out of other folks' affairs.
Well, I wouldn't allow her to upset me if I were aware.
She don't worry me. I never give her a thought. I do hate to have other folks prying into my business. Did she tell you why Matthew isn't at home today?
Oh, no, I didn't stop speaking with her about a minute or so.
Oh, thank goodness. She doesn't know yet. But she'll find out, of course. Just give her time. She'll find out anything.
Well, I just won't allow her to upset me.
I've never given her a thought. Ever since the first time that I met her, she took one look at me and she told me I was ugly. Never forgotten it.
Well, what a dreadful thing for one person to say to another.
Not that I lay claim to beauty or even think about it. There are other things in this world outside of that.
Indeed. I just try to avoid Mrs. Rachel Lynde as much as possible.
It isn't possible. impossible, as far as I'm concerned. She's always sticking her nose in where it doesn't belong.
May I come in? I won't be disturbing you, will I?
No, of course not, Rachel. Come in.
I was just leaving.
On your way to the station to get your Diana, Mrs. Barry?
Yes. She's had a lovely trip according to her letters, but of course I'll be happy to have her back with me.
That's what you ought to have around here, Marilla. A little girl. She'd be of some company for you.
A girl in my house? A girl to break things and scatter crumbs? And I'd have to spend my whole life picking up after? No sirree. I've never met a girl yet that I'd tolerate.
Reckon you'd get used to having a girl if you had to.
Reckon I just wouldn't. And there is no sense in talking about it, because it will never be. Oh, excuse me a minute. I've got an errand to run in the kitchen. I'll be right back.
That Marilla's so sot in her ways. She caused her a heap of unhappiness. If she'd asked my advice.
You must excuse me, I don't want to be late for Diana's train.
Mrs. Barry, did Marilla tell you where Matthew was going today?
No, she didn't. And of course I didn't ask.
Well, I'm not curious. But just not even a hint.
Not even a hint. And truthfully, I'm not at all curious.
Like I said, I'm not curious either. It's just not like Matthew to get dressed up in his best store clothes, and on a weekday, too. Never known him to do it before.
Well, I am sure Miss Marilla will tell you where he went and why when you ask her about it.
Well, I don't know about that. She's pretty persnickety when she wants to be, which she usually does. She's so mean by nature, when she puts up sweet pickles, they turn sour without her doing a thing to them.
Well, I've always found her to be most affable.
Ain't that what I said? While she's so strict and stern, people just shun her. I'm the only friend she has, and that's because I'm so easygoing.
Please tell Miss Marilla that I couldn't wait. Good afternoon.
Well, Rachel?
Oh, Marilla, I was just looking at your album there. I do hope nothing's happened to Matthew on his journey.
Nothing's happened to my brother. He'll be home any minute now. Where's Mrs. Barry?
Oh, she's gone to the station to get Diana. If she'd asked for my advice, which she didn't, I'd have said girls like Diana ought to have someone travel with them.
I do wish she'd have waited, though. Wanted to give her that plant for Diana.
Matthew must have gone quite a distance to be gone this long.
Yes, quite a distance. Rachel, how's Mr. Lynde these days?
Oh, he's fine. Same as usual. Never known Matthew to leave his work this way before. Must have been something quite important to take him away from it.
Yes, it must have been.
He left really early this morning, Marilla.
I know when he left, Rachel.
Of course you do. Wouldn't have done that without your say-so. Marilla, I've never known Matthew to be eager about leaving and going anywhere. You won't mind telling me where he's gone and why, will you?
Well, I guess I might as well. We'll find out anyway. Matthew has gone to meet the train at Bright River. We're adopting a child from the Hopton orphanage.
A child? You mean a little girl?
I don't mean anything of the kind. How many times must I tell you? I won't have a girl in my house. He's bringing back a boy.
A boy from an orphanage. Are you in earnest, Marilla?
Yes, of course I am.
A boy from an orphanage. Well, everything must be upside down. Who would have ever thought?
We've been thinking about it for quite some time. In fact, all winter. But we didn't decide definitely until just a few weeks ago.
Well, whatever put the idea in your head?
Well, Nancy Spencer was over here for a visit a short time ago, and she was telling us about how Mrs. Alexander Spencer adopted such a lovely boy from the Hopton orphanage. So Matthew and I were talking it over. You know, his heart bothers him at times. He's getting on in years.
What does his heart have to do with adopting a boy?
Well, You know how hard it is to get good farm help these days. In fact, it's almost impossible. Boys just want to go to the city to work when they get big. So Matthew and I decided that we would adopt a boy and raise him and let him help Matthew with the farm work.
Well, I'm going to tell you plain, Marilla. I think you're doing something mighty risky. Mighty risky.
But,
Well, you just don't know anything about this boy. Not what he's like, what his disposition is, or how he's likely to turn out.
yes, that's true, but
But I read of a case where a boy who was adopted from an orphanage set fire to the house at night. Did it on purpose, too.
that's silly, Rachel. Nobody's gonna set fire to this house.
Well, a body never knows. While I read of another case where a boy who was adopted used to suck eggs. Don't know why he did it. They couldn't break him of it. Well, if you'd asked for my advice, which you didn't, I'd have told you not to think another thing about it. I most certainly would.
I admit that there's something in what you say, Rachel. But you see, it's so seldom that Matthew sets his mind on anything that when he does, I feel it my duty to give in. And he's longed for an orphan. He has for years.
Well, I hope it works out for you. 10 chances to 1 it won't. But if you find yourself with strychnine in your well, don't blame me. I heard of another case where a child did just that, and before they knew it, the whole family had died in fearful agonies. Only it was a girl in this instance.
Well, we're not getting a girl. Thank goodness. I won't have a girl in my house.
Well, it seems to me you'd want to go to the orphanage to pick out your own boy.
Well, Nancy Spencer's right smart. I trust her judgment.
Nancy Spencer, I wouldn't trust her in my sight, much less out. She's so flighty and rattle-brained. Of all the things that ever were, ever will be. Seems uncanny, somehow, to think of a child here at Green Gables. If you ask my advice, which you didn't, well, if it turns out you're murdered in your sleep, don't say Rachel Lynde didn't warn you.
Well, Marilla, I'm here.
Matthew, where's the boy? Can't you say something? Wasn't he at the train? Didn't you meet him?
I ain't saying that he was, and I ain't saying that he wasn't.
Didn't they send him after all?
Well, I ain't saying that they did, and I ain't saying that they didn't.
Matthew Cuthbert, the most provoking man I ever met. Tell me what's happened.
I don't know as I'd better, Marilla, but I'm afraid I'll have to. Prepare yourself for a shock.
I'm used to shocks. Come on, out with it. Tell me the worst. This must be dreadful.
Well, I ain't saying that it is, and I ain't saying that it ain't. You can see for yourself.
Matthew Cuthbert. Who's that? Where's the boy?
There wasn't any boy, Marilla. It was only her.
I distinctly told Nancy Spencer that I must have a boy.
Please, ma'am. Mrs. Alexander Spencer said that Miss Nancy Spencer stated that you definitely wanted a girl. That's why they picked me.
You might have known Nancy Spencer couldn't get anything straight. This is a pretty piece of business, I must say.
I just know I'm going to love it here at Green Gables. There'll be so much scope for my imagination. It'll be terribly conducive.
What?
Now, Marilla, you see, she talks a great deal, but she don't mean any harm.
But she's not a boy and she can't stay here.
You don't want me? Just because I'm not a boy? I might have expected it. Nobody did want me since I was a little girl. But I've known this was all too beautiful to last. I might have known I'd never be as happy as the other girls. Oh, I'm going to cry.
no need to cry. Is there, Matthew?
Well, I don't know. I ain't saying that there is, and I ain't saying that there ain't.
Yes, there is need. You'd cry too if you were an orphan who had come to a home that you thought was going to be yours, just to find out that they didn't want you because, oh, this is the most tragical moment of my entire life.
Stop that crying this instant. We won't turn you out of doors right now. You can stay at least until tomorrow. What's your name?
Will you please call me Cordelia?
Cordelia? Is that your name?
No, not exactly. But I would love it if you'd call me Cordelia. Such a perfectly elegant name.
If Cordelia isn't your name, then what is it?
Anne Shirley. Oh, but please, if you only call me Cordelia, it can't matter to you what you call me if I'm only going to be here for a little while, now can it? Plus, Anne is such an unromantic name.
Unromantic? Fiddlesticks. Anne is a real good, plain, sensible name. There's no need to be ashamed of it.
Well, I'm not ashamed of it. Really, I'm not. I just get tired of plain, sensible things, don't you? Why, when I was real little, I used to pretend that I was Geraldine. And then when I got older, I came to like Cordelia better. But if you must call me Anne, will you please only call me Anne, spelled with an E?
What difference does it make how it's spelled?
It makes all the difference. Anne with an E just looks so much more distinguished than plain old Anne. If you'll only call me Anne with an E, I'll try to reconcile myself not to be called Cordelia.
Very well. Anne, spelled with an E. Tell me something about yourself.
Well, do you want to hear about my journey here on a fiery chariot and how a handsome prince was attracted to me by my name? And he told me I was the most interesting person he'd ever met because I was so intensive.
Fiery chariot? Royal prince? What on earth do you mean? Matthew, do you understand her?
Well, I don't know. I can't say that I do, and I can't say that I don't.
Matthew and I understand each other perfectly. The first time I saw him at the train station, I knew that we would be kindred spirits. Why, I know Matthew so well I could read his mind.
That wouldn't be very difficult. Matthew, you might as well take her valise into the outside hall. Take her hat as well. You won't be able to drive her back until tomorrow, that's for certain.
Well, at least I didn't have my journey for nothing. I got to meet Matthew. I know I'll never meet another human being half his kind. I got to see the white way of delight and the lake of shining water.
Sakes alive! What are you talking about?
Well, see, I had to learn real early in life that things aren't so bad if you just imagine that they're not. So when Matthew brought me past that pond, I just imagined that it was the lake of shining water. It's so much fun giving beautiful names to beautiful things. Don't you agree?
I've never heard of such a thing.
Well, haven't you ever imagined anything? I think you would. You have such a lovely house here. Why, I can imagine all sorts of wonderful things.
Then all that talk about fiery charger and royal prince was just fancy? You made it all up yourself?
Well, of course. See, nobody did pay attention to me on my train ride here. So I just imagined that I was a princess.
I wish you'd stop all your imaginings and imagine how I'm going to get you back to the Hopeton orphanage without going through a lot of trouble. You certainly are a problem.
Couldn't you just let me stay and learn to like me? I'd do anything you'd ask, anything.
That's impossible. I won't have a girl in my house.
Well, that's another hope gone. My life is a perfect graveyard full of buried hopes. I read that in a book once, and I say it to comfort myself when I'm disappointed in anything.
Stuff and nonsense. I do not see where the comforting comes in myself.
Because it's so nice and romantic. Just as if I were a heroine in a novel. And a graveyard full of buried hopes is as romantic of a thing as one can imagine, isn't it? Oh, what a beautiful geranium. What do you call it?
A geranium. Of course. What else would you call it?
But it's an awfully beautiful geranium. It really ought to have a name. Would you mind terribly if I named it while I was here? Let's see. I'll name it Bonnie. Yes, Bonnie will do.
I don't care what you call it. Makes no sense to me.
It makes all the sense in the world. How do you know it doesn't hurt a geranium's feelings just to be called a geranium and nothing else? How would you like to be called just a woman and nothing else? Yes, I shall call it Bonnie.
I wish you'd stop all this talk and all this imaginings and tell me how you came to be at the Hopeton Orphanage in the first place.
Well, you see, my parents were terribly in love, and they were very poor and had to work very hard. My mother died when I was young, and then my father. So I went to live with a family by the name of Williams. They knew them well.
Williams. Did they have any other children?
Oh, yes, several. And as soon as I was old enough, I took care of them and tended to them when they were sick. Well, all except for Charles, our oldest boy. He worked for a butcher. Don't you think that's awfully romantic work? I do. But Charles worried his family terribly.
Why? Did he work steadily?
Oh, of course, all the time. But one night, Charles didn't come home. And his father went out looking for him, checked the butcher shop and everything, but he was nowhere to be found. He didn't come home till 4 o'clock in the morning.
Goodness gracious. Where had he been all that time?
Right there in the butcher shop. The butcher asked him to stay and hang up the meat. So Charles locked the door and turned out the lights, and there he stayed, all that time.
But surely it didn't take him all that time to hang up the meat.
No, it didn't take him long to hang up all the chunks of meat. But it took him forever to puzzle out how to hang up all the hamburger.
Stop that laughing, Matthew. The idea. Hanging up hamburger, I've never heard such in my life. If you had such a good home with the Williams family, why didn't you just stay there?
Mrs. Williams passed away. And they lost their home and all their money. I never went without food. Well, almost never. And I always had some kind of clothing. But Mr. Williams thought it would be best if I went to the orphanage. Oh, but here I've been talking and I haven't asked what you want me to call you. Should I call you Miss Cuthbert? May I call you Aunt Marilla? And then I could really imagine that I belong to somebody.
No. You just call me Marilla, the same as everybody else. Just plain Marilla.
That seems awfully disrespectful just to call you Marilla and nothing else.
Well, I'm not your aunt. And I don't believe in calling folks by names that don't belong to them. Do you, Matthew?
Well, I don't know. Can't say that I do. I can't say that I don't.
Couldn't you just imagine that you were my aunt? I'm only going to be here for a short while, then I can imagine I really belong to somebody.
No, I never imagined anything.
Oh, you don't miss... Oh, Marilla, how much you miss. I've only been here a short time, and I've already imagined the most wonderful things about this old house. Oh, what a beautiful garden. It just seems to be calling to me. Anne, come out to us, Anne. We want a playmate. May I please go out, just for a little while?
I don't suppose that'll do any harm, but mind you stay in the garden.
Oh, thank you, Marilla. I know that I could come to like you in time almost as much as I like Matthew. You might even become a kindred spirit. Thank you so much.
I declare, I've never seen anything to equal her. Oh, this is a pretty kettle of fish. This is what goes from sending word instead of going ourselves. Oh, I'll never forgive that Nancy Spencer, never. Anne will have to be sent back to the orphanage. Matthew, put that paper down and listen to me. Do you hear?
What's that, Marilla? Were you saying something?
I most certainly did. I said Anne will have to be sent back to the orphanage.
Yes, I suppose so.
You suppose so? Don't you know?
Well, now, she's a real nice little thing, and she's had such a hard life, it'd be a pity to send her back when she's so set on staying here.
Matthew Cuthbert, you don't mean to say you think we should keep her?
Well, I ain't saying that we should, and I ain't saying that we shouldn't.
But what good would she be to us?
Well, I don't know, Marilla, but we might be of some good to her.
I can see as plain as day that girl has bewitched you. You think we should keep her?
Well, I ain't saying we should, and I ain't saying we shouldn't. But anyhow, Marilla, she's a real interesting little thing. Kind of gets under your skin, so she does. Should have heard her talk come from the station.
No, she can talk fast enough. I saw that right away. And that is not to her credit. I don't like young people who have so much to say. I don't want to adopt an orphan girl. And if I did, she is not the style that I'd pick out.
I could hire young Jerry Butte from down near the creek. He was here the other day looking for a job, and it'd be company for you, Marilla.
I am not suffering for company, and I am not going to keep her.
Well, it is as you say, of course, Marilla.
Call her in.
Anne, Marilla wants you.
Oh, Marilla, I just had the most gorgeous time. I named the large cherry tree Snow Queen because it's so white. But I'm afraid I made a terrible mistake by going out there, Marilla. Now I'll have to leave all my new friends I've just made.
Friends? But there's nobody in that garden, is there?
Nobody? How can you say nobody when the garden is full of flowers and birds and trees? I had the most fun just imagining that I was in an enchanted garden. My older sister Gwendolyn is jealous of me because I am beautiful and she is not. And just as I started to look at my reflection in the lake of shining water...
Oh, just stop that talk. I declare, Anne Shirley, I believe your jaw must be hung on a hinge.
But it's not. Honest, it's not. Here are some flowers I picked for you, Marilla. I hope you like them.
I don't want my house all cluttered up with flowers. The place for those was in the garden.
But there can't be any harm in having beautiful things in the home, Marilla. Why, half of us don't have enough beauty in our lives.
Fiddlesticks. Beauty indeed. You should be thinking of practical matters.
Yes, I guess I should now that I'm grown up. I guess I ought to learn that I should act in a manner more becoming of a matronly person, which I am now. It seems like only yesterday I was playing with my dolls. Only I didn't have any dolls because they were too expensive. Please take these flowers, Marilla. I picked them specially for you.
Well, I suppose if I must, I must. But don't suppose that I won't, because I don't. Matthew, stop that laughing. You don't think I want these flowers, do you?
Well, I don't know. I ain't saying that you do, and I ain't saying that you don't.
The idea. I'm gonna go and put the tea on for water on for the tea. You both must be starved.
Marilla, did I leave my stuff here? There it is. I don't know why I ran off and left them. So, Matthew, where's the boy you brought back with you?
There wasn't any boy. I mean, he's a girl.
A girl? But Marilla said that... So, you're what they sent instead of a boy.
Well,
Certainly didn't pick you for their looks, did they? Come here and let me look at you. My, she's awfully homely and skinny, Marilla. Waffle heart, did you ever see such freckles? Downright ugly, ain't she?
How dare you? I hate you! How dare you call me skinny and ugly? How dare you point out my freckles? You're a rude, impolite, unfeeling woman!
Anne, stop that this instant.
I hate you! How would you like it if I said that you were clumsy and you hadn't had a speck of imagination in you? I hate you, you giblet eye!
Well, have you ever seen such a temper? I don't envy your job bringing up that girl, Marilla.
Well, I'm not raising her, Rachel. She's going back tomorrow. But you shouldn't have said anything about her looks. Nobody likes to be told that they're homely.
I never dreamed the day I would see Marilla Cuthbert uphold a girl with such a temper. Did you, Matthew?
Well, I ain't saying that I have, and I ain't saying that I haven't.
Well, I'm going to go in there and give Marilla Cuthbert a thing or two, so I am. If she'd asked for my advice, which she didn't, none of this would have ever happened.
Come on out, Anne. I'm here alone. Come on.
Oh, Matthew, that awful woman said terrible things about me. I just convinced myself after months of imagining my freckles were beauty marks. And now she had to go and ruin it.
That Rachel Lynde is a meddlesome gossip. It's a shame it had to happen just now. Because I was trying to coax Marilla to let you stay, at least for a little while.
Matthew, were you really? Oh, I'd do anything if you could get Marilla to let me stay. Anything.
Would you apologize to Rachel Lynde and tell her that you're sorry that you lost your temper just now?
Well, I don't know about that. It would be rather difficult. Maybe I could imagine I was sorry. Do you think Marilla would let me stay then?
Well, I don't know. Can't say that she will. I can't say that she won't. But it would be a help.
Well, if you want me to, Matthew, I will. I can never refuse you anything.
Only, you mustn't tell Marilla that I suggested it. She might think I was putting my oar in, and that'd make her angry.
Matthew, wild horses wouldn't pull the secret from me. Though, how wild horses would pull a secret from somebody, I don't know.
I don't want anything more said about it, Rachel.
Well, I'm not setting foot back in this house until that girl apologizes.
Marilla,
Anne, you've heard what Rachel said. She's within her rights. And I expect you to ask her to forgive you.
Mrs. Lynde, please say that you'll forgive me. I could never express my sorrow. No, not if I used up a whole dictionary. I've disgraced poor Marilla and dear Matthew.
Very well, Anne, that's good. And I don't expect us to ever mention this matter again.
But I've only just gotten started, Marilla. It was wicked of me to fly into a rage just because you told me the truth. It was the truth, every bit of it. I am skinny and ugly and freckled. Please say that you'll forgive me. If you won't, it'll be a lifelong sorrow to me. Please say you will.
Well, since you're just an orphan, and you never had any proper upbringing, I guess I have to forgive you.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Lynde. I knew you had a kind heart after all.
Hope this will teach you to keep your temper, Anne.
I do hope so. But you know, everything I said about you was the truth too. But I shouldn't have said it!
An afternoon the following September.
Oh, Mrs. Barry, do come in, won't you?
Sorry I haven't been by for a while. I have been so busy trying to get Diana ready for school and shopping for myself that I've hardly had any time for visiting. Seems there's always something to attend to.
It's the same with me. I'm always on the go lately. Now that Ann is here, I don't get a chance to sit because I'm always going from one thing to another.
I imagine she'd keep you busy.
Busy? Seems like I'm always constantly picking up there after her.
Well, she's brought a great deal of change to my life, too. Diana isn't the same girl since Ann took up her abode here. You know, I've never seen two girls who liked each other more from the start.
That's all I hear from morning till night. It's Diana this and Diana that. Yesterday, Diana and Ann were seagulls. There's no telling what they'll be in today.
Well, it has kept Diana out of doors, and that's been extremely beneficial to her. Diana tells me that Ann is the smartest girl in her class.
I wager that she talks more than the whole class put together. But you know, I saw her teacher at church Sunday, and she did say that Ann is considerable bright.
I've never seen a young lady that was more eager to make friends. She's got a positive genius for friendship.
She has a genius for making mistakes and using big words. Half the time I don't even know what she's talking about.
Well, you should follow Ann's example and use your imagination. Have you decided to keep her with you permanently?
Well, I can't say that I have. And I can't say that I haven't. Oh, goodness gracious. Beginning to sound just like Matthew. Oh, it's all his doings that Ann is still here. I don't have anything to do with it.
Matthew urged you to keep her here. Oh, but of course, if you hadn't wanted her here.
I've never wanted her. But Matthew is so exasperating. He pointed out that there's no sense in being a church member if a body ain't gonna act in a Christian manner. And it was a case of either keeping her or sending her back. And Ann cried and she pleaded so to stay. And you know, Matthew was taken with the idea.
You needn't make all of those apologies to me. I think that you learned to care for Ann yourself.
How can you even think such a thing? I've never brought up a child before, and I'll probably make a mess of it.
Well, forgive me for saying so. I was wrong, apparently. But perhaps you could learn to care for her before she's here much longer.
I believe in such foolishness. I just try to take an interest in the girl because an old maid like me knows more about raising a young girl than an old bachelor like Matthew. But you know, it's the most surprising thing to me that Matthew is so set on Ann staying here.
It is amazing. From what Diana tells me, she runs to him with all of her troubles and tells him everything she does.
She don't tell him any more than she tells me. And she certainly tells me everything. Isn't in her to keep anything to herself. She's only happy when she's talking.
Does Mrs. Rachel Lynde come by as much as she formerly did?
Oh, yes. More's the pity. You know, Ann spent an entire hour apologizing to her that day. But you know, Mrs. Berry, I was kind of glad that she talked to Rachel the way that she did.
So was I. We laughed for hours at what Ann said when she apologized.
You know, for all of her fiery temper and constant gabbing, Ann is not deceitful or sly. There's not a stingy bone in her body. Why, she'd share anything she had with whoever happened to be with her.
She's forever picking flowers for Diana. And you know, if Ann has 2 caramels, she'd never consider eating both of them. One must be saved for her Diana.
She'd carry half my house over to yours if I let her. But you know, I don't know how I'm going to cure her of being so outspoken. I made 3 new dresses for her, and she didn't have a single outfit fit to wear.
Well, wasn't she grateful to you for making them for her?
She said she'd have to try to imagine that she liked them.
What?
She couldn't take to the dresses because they weren't pretty and they didn't have puff sleeves. Seems like all her life she's wanted a long white dress with puff sleeves. She'd look pretty traipsing through the schoolhouse in an outfit like that, now wouldn't she?
Well, she is only a child. I am sure between you and your brother she will be a great success.
Matthew is not to have anything to do with it. He's given me his word. I wouldn't have allowed her to stay in my house if her upbringing was not left entirely up to me.
And, of course, you always have the consolation of sending her back to the orphanage if she becomes too much of a responsibility.
And admit that I'm a quitter? No. I am no failure and I am no quitter. When I aim to tackle a thing, I aim to see it through. And I aim to see that Anne Shirley is a well-mannered girl. Come what may.
Just as I thought.
What do you mean?
Oh, nothing. I just have my own opinions about why you're keeping Anne here, and I am not using my imagination.
I don't understand you no how.
Diana was so anxious to go to school today. Apparently, the wealthy Blythe boy is back in Avonlea, and today is his first day of classes for the season.
I'll hear all about that from Anne when she gets home from school, and more too. All I've heard for the past few weeks is plans about this picnic that the Sunday school has tomorrow.
I've heard my fair share of that too. But it is Anne's first picnic, so it's easy to understand why she's enthusiastic about it. Oh, to be young and have all of one's illusions before one.
Don't believe in such foolishness. Young or old, we all have our work to do in this world. Share and share alike.
Yes, but that must be seasoned with a little pleasure. I'm sure you'd be rewarded for all of your hard work with Anne if you heard all of the wonderful things that she says about you.
She does? What does she say? Oh, never mind. Don't tell me. Oh, I'd be happier still if she'd pay more attention and do what I tell her to do in the first place. Instead, she talks so much that she makes me forget what I told her to do in the first place.
Do try to cheer up and be patient. I have trouble with Diana and she's my own daughter. And come over more, we should see far more of each other now that the girls are such good friends.
I'll walk you to the door.
Thank you.
Do come again soon.
Warm for this time of year, ain't it, Marilla?
I've been too busy to notice. I'm always on the go lately.
Well, I've been pretty busy myself in the fields.
Matthew, you don't think your work is as tiring as mine is, do you?
Well, I ain't saying that it is, and I ain't saying that it ain't.
Matthew, when you're finished in the evenings, your work is through. Housework is never finished. Where have you been? Didn't you have a package with you when you came in a while ago?
Well, I don't know. I ain't saying that I had, and I ain't saying that I hadn't.
You've been to town and bought something for Anne again, haven't you?
Well, now, I ain't.
Matthew, you'd spoil that girl beyond all reason. I declare, I think you think more of her than anybody else in this world. Why, if Anne Shirley took a notion to get up in the middle of the night and have dinner, you'd say it was okay.
Well, I don't know. I ain't saying that I would, And I ain't saying that I wouldn't. But you've got to admit, Marilla, that Ann is obedient and she sure tries to please.
Well, she don't have to try to please you. And as far as being obedient, I'd expect that of any child I took to raise.
Well, then, you've got to admit that she's improved in the short amount of time she's been here.
Improved?
Yep.
How?
She hasn't lost her temper once since that day she turned on Rachel Lynde, and she hasn't called anybody gimlet eye since that day.
I shouldn't think that she would. Not that it mattered so much when she talked to Rachel the ways she did, but it's the principle of the thing. Ann has promised me not to lose her temper again.
And that's one promise she'll keep, too. I know Ann.
Since when have you been such a judge of young girls? Never heard you express an opinion about one of those before.
Well, now, I ain't saying that I know anything about girls. Then again, I ain't saying that I don't. What I am saying is I do know a lot about Ann.
Oh, Rachel, do come in and shut the door. You're letting in all the flies.
I just thought I'd come in from next door and tell you the news. Who do you suppose is back in Avonlea?
Who?
Mr. Blythe and his son Gilbert.
Oh, I'll hear all about that. Gilbert Blythe is in Ann's class at school.
They say it's a caution the way he teased the girls last year.
I knew his father when I was real young. He was most pleasant.
Never had any use for him myself. I always thought he was kind of uppity, if you ask me.
He never was uppity with me.
That's probably because he said you looked like a rosebud back in 1880.
I wasn't alive in 1880. Was I, Matthew?
Huh? What's that, Marilla? Did you say something?
I said I wasn't alive in 1880. Was I?
Well, I don't know. I can't say that you were, and I can't say that you weren't.
What?
Now, you know, Marilla, I was never real good at remembering dates.
Well, I wasn't, so there. And I could prove it if I wanted to. I'd just get out the family Bible.
Oh, could you, Marilla? Always wanted to see that. Go get it.
Some other time, Rachel. I have more important things to do right now. Matthew, did Moody Spurgeon come and take Dimples?
I reckon he did, because she ain't out in the barn no more, and she was there before I drove to town.
Dimples? Who's Dimples? I've never heard you mention her before.
Well, if you must know, she's one of our pigs. Ann named her Dimples because she was so full of them.
Maybe a big Dimples. Matthew, if I had known you were selling a pig, I might have bought it for myself. Did you get much for her?
Well, I don't know. I haven't got it yet. Don't know that you call it much, and don't know that you wouldn't.
Matthew, mind that you go and get the money. Moody must have taken her while you were away.
That Matthew's the most irritating man I've ever met. You can't get anything out of him.
He
Why?
always tells me what I want to know, Rachel. You just don't know how to handle him.
You must have just learned that yourself. Marilla, if you're not in your best go-to-meeting clothes, is something important happening today?
Well, if you must know, Mrs. Allan, the preacher's wife, is coming over for tea this afternoon.
Oh, is that all? She was at my house last week. I thought it was something important.
Well, it is important to Ann. She's taking quite a fancy to her. And she begged me so for permission to have her come over. And when I said that she might, Ann got up at 6 o'clock this morning to bake a special layer cake for her.
Well, I wouldn't set much in store from the new minister's wife. She's so worldly. She's liable to fill Ann's head full of a bunch of nonsense. If you had asked for my advice, which you didn't, I'd have said Ann should stay in school today.
Ann is at school. She got up so early and to take special care of that cake that she hardly ate any lunch. And she just rushed right out so that she would be on time for the afternoon session.
I tell you, Ann's not in school. Reckon I know these things. She's got too much freedom, Marilla. It's going to turn into a bad end.
But if Anne's not at school, then where is she?
I don't know. Haven't had time to find out yet. But when I do, I'll come right back here and tell you.
Mr. Matthew told me I could come in this way. Is Anne home yet? Tell her I have a message for her, please, Miss Marilla.
No, Josie, Anne hasn't come back from school yet.
Are you sure? Because she ran out of school hours ago.
Ha! Told you Anne wasn't in school. I reckon I know these things and you'll listen to me from now on. Tell us everything that happened, Josie.
Oh, I couldn't tell you. It was too awful. Gosh, it was more fun than a barrel of monkeys.
Josie Pye, if you don't tell me what happened at school this afternoon, I'm going to take you to your mother, and I'll have her make you tell me.
Oh, don't do that, Miss Marilla. I'll tell you. Only it's so awful you won't ever believe it in a million years. Gosh, so fun.
Out with it. Tell us everything, just how it happened.
Well, you know I sit right behind Anne and Diana, and that Gilbert Blythe is just across the way from us. Well, this morning I heard Anne say to Diana, I admit your Gilbert Blythe is handsome, but I think he's very bold. He actually winked at me just now, and that's not good manners.
Josie Pye, are you going to tell me what happened at school, or aren't you?
I'm telling you right now, Miss Marilla. This afternoon, Anne was sitting at her desk reading. My, but she's the readingest girl I've ever seen. And Gilbert leaned over and whispered to her loud enough for us all to hear, Freckles, Freckles, just like that.
Oh, no, he didn't.
He sure did. I was right there and heard him. Gosh, some fun.
Is that all that happened?
No, Anne didn't pay no mind to him at first, so he leaned over closer to her and whispered, I could do the multiplication table just by counting your freckles. Freckles, then he grinned just as hard as he could.
What?
Oh, dear.
Then Anne stood aside Gilbert and shouted right out loud, You mean hateful boy, how dare you? And then she up with the slate, brought it down on Gilbert's head and cracked it clear across.
Cracked his head.
No, the slate. You ain't heard the worst yet neither.
I can't imagine it'd be much worse.
Well, you see, she didn't hit Gilbert over the head with her own slate. That slate belonged to Diana, and now you're going to have to buy Diana a very new slate, Miss Marilla.
Oh, this is dreadful.
I can't say that I'm surprised. I expected something like this when you let an orphan in your house. Don't worry, I won't say anything to anyone. Though I'm pretty sure everyone in town already knows.
Josie, did Anne leave school right after she cracked the slate on Gilbert's head?
No, our teacher called Anne up front, and he told her she had the worst temper he'd ever seen. And then he wrote on the blackboard for the whole class to see, Anne Shirley has a very bad temper. Anne Shirley must learn to control her temper.
I wouldn't have minded it so much if only he hadn't spelled my name without an E on it.
Anne Shirley, ashamed of you. Where have you been since you left school? Why didn't you come here straight and tell me all about this?
Because I knew some tattletale like Josie Pye would get here first. I've been thinking of ways and means of removing myself from this veil of tears and sorrow.
I ain't a tattletale, Anne Shirley. I came here to deliver a message from Gilbert Blythe. He asked me to.
You must never mention his name to me again. Anybody who does is my enemy for the rest of my existence. And for present indication seems to be brief indeed.
Anne, come here to me.
Now, if you're satisfied, Josie, you can go home and tell everyone that I'm never going back to school again.
You ain't? Not ever?
I said never, and that means permanent.
I'll just have to tell Gilbert you would listen to his message. Gosh, some fun.
You know, Marilla, when I first came here, I wished that I'd been born a boy. But ever since I met that a certain boy, I'm glad I'm a girl, and that I'm not his sister.
Anne, your behavior is disgraceful. First you insult Rachel Lynde, and now it's Gilbert Blythe.
Oh.
And you told me.
But it's Matthew I'm thinking of. I promised him I wouldn't lose my temper again. Marilla, what do you think is the quickest, most painful way of taking oneself out of this world and into the next?
Anne, don't you even think such a thing.
Everything was getting along just beautifully. Even if I did put the pie in the oven and forget to take it out till it had been burnt to a crisp, I felt that I was making fewer mistakes every day. And I was proud of being Anne of Green Gables. And now,
Anne, you will have to be severely punished for this.
Please, Miss Cuthbert, may I say a few words?
Gilbert Blythe, how dare you come into this house? You've ruined my entire life. Aren't you satisfied?
other.
I tried to apologize to Anne. I admit that it was all my fault. I had no right to tease her so in the first place.
Go away! Go away!
Well, you aren't going to be bad friends with me forever just because of this, are you? Yeah, I promise to never mention your freckles again if you'll forgive me.
What you ask is impossible. If I choose to go on living, there are two paths before me. And the one that leads the furthest away from you is the one that I must take.
Anne, where'd you come up with that speech from?
I prefer not to indulge the source of my speech until we're alone, Marilla.
You mean divulge, Anne?
Is someone talking to you, Marilla? Because I'm not at all interested in anything they have to say.
Well, I suppose if Anne won't forgive me and be friends, there isn't anything more I can do about it, Miss Cuthbert. But I hope you won't punish Anne. She doesn't deserve it. Really, she doesn't.
Please inform Mr. Blythe from Miss Shirley that he needn't be worried about any punishments that may be meted out to her. The worst punishment is to have to be in the same room as him.
Well, there doesn't seem to be much hope that she'll change her mind, does there? She surely has a lot of spirit.
She has that all right, and a fiery temper to go along with it.
Don't I know it?
She's terribly sensitive about her freckles. Any mention of them gets her riled.
You know, this has taught me a lesson. I'll never tease another girl no matter how badly I want to.
Any luck, son?
Not so far, sir. Perhaps Anne will change her mind and be friends in a few days. Oh, but promise me you won't punish Anne. That'll make me feel better.
Well, we'll see.
You won't try to inflict punishment on Anne, will you, sir?
He doesn't have anything to do with it. Anne's my problem.
Oh, I see. Well, I'm mighty sorry that this happened. And my first visit here was on such an unpleasant mission. May I come again?
Yes, I'm sure Anne will be sorry she snubbed you and be willing to be friendly in a few days.
You do? That's fine. Thank you so much, both of you. Goodbye now.
Seems like a nice, polite boy, but he also seems awfully anxious to be friends with Anne. Anne said she won't go back to school, Matthew. We'll have to talk her out of that, won't we?
You mean you'll have to do it? Remember that you're the one who's raising her?
Matthew, I wish you'd grow up and show some sense. Matthew, isn't that the package that you had when you came in earlier? Who's it for?
Well, I ain't saying that is for anybody. Then again, I ain't saying that it ain't.
Not interested in your old packages anyhow.
I reckon you'd be interested if you knew what was in it, wouldn't you just?
You're just trying to get me all stirred up, and I won't be stirred. Well, who's it for? What's in it?
It's for you. Open it up and see how you like it.
For me?
That's right.
Land's sakes, Matthew. Whatever possessed you to buy me such an expensive collar?
I didn't buy it for you, Marilla. Anne bought it for you.
Anne, where'd she get the money?
She's been helping me pick berries. I paid her so much a pail. She saved all her money to buy you that collar.
That was very thoughtful of her. Not that I go in for woeful waste, though. She should have saved her money.
Now, Marilla, you know that deep down in your heart you appreciate Anne's thinking of you.
Who said I didn't appreciate it? But you know I don't go in for such fancy falderals.
No, nor do you show your true feelings either.
Is that a certain boy gone, Matthew? Well, that's something to be thankful for on this thankless day.
Anne, I want to thank you for this collar. It's real pretty. Never thought Matthew had the good taste to pick it out.
But Matthew didn't pick it out, I did, the last time he took me to town with him. Only I didn't have all the money saved. And he offered to advance it to me. But seeing how uncertain life is at best, I thought that I should wait till I had the money saved myself. I do hope you like it.
Oh, I like it all right. It's very pretty. But I will not let it blind me to my duty. Gilbert had no right to tease her about her freckles, but she had no right to lose her temper and create a scene at school.
Marilla, The stars and their courses are against me. Of course, what happened today was simply tragical. And I'll never be able to forget what that a certain boy said about my freckles. But I don't think it matters much, because I'm not going back to school as long as Mr. Phillips is the teacher there.
Do you hear that, Matthew? What have you got to say to that?
Well, I don't know that I've got anything to say about that, Marilla. Then again, I don't know but what I have. Anne is in your charge, and I don't have a thing to do with her raising.
I wish you'd grow up and show some sense.
Matthew has more sense than any man I've met. Why, he uses his brain for more than just headaches.
Well, you will go back to school. I will see to that.
Marilla, try to comprehend the position I find myself in. I fear that I am not long for this world. If I were to die tomorrow, at least I've partaken of the joy of having a home and someone to belong to. I've been Anne of Green Gables, and that's better than any Anne in the world. When I'm buried, please place a lock of Diana's hair in my casket. I'm sure Matthew will want to place a box of my favorite chocolates along with it. You can inform everyone in Avonlea that I died of a broken heart, caused by an excess of grief.
I don't think there's much fear of you dying of grief as long as you're still talking. We'll talk about you going back to school later.
Well, thank you, Marilla. It's so helpful to infer unpleasant things until a later time. I'll have to imagine so hard and ever so long that my freckles aren't too disfiguring.
I do wish you'd pay less attention to your looks and more attention to keeping that temper in check. Remember, handsome is as handsome does.
I've heard that said before, Marilla, but I doubt it. Next to having a white dress with puffed sleeves, I can't imagine anything more scrumptious. Scrumptious is a new word I learned in school today, and I wrote the most gorgeous story about it. But now I wish that I hadn't turned it in.
What was the essay about?
Well, it was about Benjamin Franklin's life. How he was born a poor boy, and he educated himself. And one day, he was walking the streets of Philadelphia, and he met the most beautiful girl. She didn't have one freckle. And he worked hard and studied, and many years later, he met the same girl again. And they got engaged and got married, and he discovered electricity.
Anne, you never remember anything I tell you to do. Who forgot to hang up their clothes last night before they went to sleep?
I know that, Marilla, but you didn't teach it. I learned it in Sunday school. It was Adam.
I declare, never met a girl like you in my life. Oh, remember Mrs. Allan's coming over this afternoon for tea. I do hope that layer cake that you baked turns out all right. I'm going to go upstairs to find my gold brooch with the amethyst. Remember, I've had it for several years. It will hold this collar in place in the front.
Oh, Matthew, I'm so sorry I broke my promise to you. Only my temper had warned me before I lost it. Though, if we're ever warned before we lose something, we might manage not to lose it in the first place.
I bought you this little knife in town today, Anne. I figured you could use it to sharpen your pencils at school. But I reckon you won't have any use for it since you're not going back to school.
But of course I'll need it, Matthew. I'm going to continue my schooling right here at home. I'll have loads of pencils to sharpen. But now I wish I hadn't spent all my money.
Huh?
I really ought to give you a piece of money, or our friendship might be cut in two.
I'll lend you some money. Will that be all right?
No, it has to be my own money. Please promise me that you won't let anything mar our friendship until I can get you a 5-cent piece.
I'll try not to let anything happen between us, Anne.
Then I'll enjoy using my knife, and I'll pretend that it's a royal dagger. Next to having a white dress with puffed sleeves, I wouldn't want anything else in the world. But you don't suppose Marilla will mind me having a royal dagger, do you? I can't quite make her out. There are times where she seems like she wants to melt a little, but she never does.
Well, I don't know. She's peculiar, Marilla is.
Peculiar? How?
Well, I don't know as I'd better try to tell you. But Then again, perhaps a better. You see, Ann, Marilla's never had any children around her, and that makes a difference.
Oh, yes. If she had raised as many children as I have, she'd understand them better.
Huh?
Well, you know, the little ones at the orphanage, and the Williams children.
Oh, yes, to be sure. You see, Ann, Marilla's not given to saying the things that are in her heart, but she feels them just the same. You see, she's hard on the outside, but soft on the inside, if you see what I mean.
Yes, but I can't tell you why people are like that any more than I can tell you what thistles grow for. You know, when I was a teeny weeny little girl, I heard a lady say once, "Don't wait till I'm dead to put roses on my grave. Give them to me while I'm alive." Have you ever heard that, Matthew?
Well, I don't know. Can't say that I have. Can't say that I haven't. If I have, I've plumb forgotten.
Well, I can never forget anything that beautiful. Why, when I saw that certain boy for the first time, I thought that he was beautiful, and that I'd never forget him. But now, Anne! Oh, it's my Diana. Come in, Diana!
Oh, Anne, I was so afraid you were going to keep your promise and harm yourself in some way.
I was going to, Diana. But then I got to thinking, I wouldn't want that certain boy to think that I did it because of him. I wouldn't want to give him that satisfaction.
Well, I'm certainly glad you've decided to be sensible about it. Oh, Anne, Mother is terribly upset.
What about?
That Rachel Lynde woman was over at our house and told Mother her version of the affair at school today and said perhaps I'll not come over here anymore.
Not come over? Oh, Diana, does your mother realize what it would mean to have my bosom friend torn asunder? My love for you is inextinguishable.
And so is mine for you, Anne.
Do you really mean it?
Of course. Didn't you know?
Well, I had hoped you liked me, but I didn't realize you loved me like a real bosom friend should. You're the only bosom friend I've got, Diana.
Then do. Say you'll forgive Gilbert Blythe and come back to school tomorrow.
You must never mention his name to me again, Diana. My feelings have been hurt excruciatingly.
Will Marilla let you stay home?
She'll have to.
Oh, Anne, I do think you're being mean. If you don't come back to school, Mr. Phillips will make me sit by that dreadful Josie pie. I know he will, because she is sitting alone. Do come back, Anne.
Diana, I'd do anything for you. I'd be torn limb from limb if I had to. But I can't do this, so please don't ask.
But just think of all the fun you're going to miss. We're going to build the loveliest house down by the brook and organize a girls' bowling team and have tournaments. Have you ever bowled, Anne?
No, and I don't think it's at all ladylike to knock over objects, even if they are inanimate. Bowling's okay for fat boys that work in laundries.
But if you don't come back to school and we don't see each other anymore,
Diana, I was thinking about that just the other day. And we'll have to be parted sooner or later. Because I am an orphan, and you'll grow up to be a beautiful lady, and you'll marry a duke or a lord. I've imagined it all, how a wedding and everything.
But Anne,
You'll be dressed for your wedding in snowy satin, with a veil, and looking as regal as a queen. And I, the bridesmaid, in a white dress with the widest puffed sleeves, with a smiling face, hiding my broken heart inside, and bidding my Diana goodbye.
But that won't happen for ever so many years.
Diana, do you promise never to forget the friend of your childhood, no matter what dear friends make overtures to thee? I read that in a book once. It's called The Maiden's Farewell, and they address each other as thee and thou. It was so romantic that I think we ought to try it. Wilt thee?
I wilt.
Oh, Diana, thy memory shines like stars over my lonely life, and though thou art a bride and go off to live with strangers, my heart will ever be devoted to thee.
And mine to thee. Wilt thou walk halfway home with me now, Anne?
And shall we thee and thou along the way?
Yes, let's. I wilt if thou wilt.
Well, I don't know. Can't say that she is. Can't say that she ain't.
Matthew, you try the patience of a saint. Can't you tell me whether Anne's here or not?
No. But I do know that she was here, and so was Diana Barry.
I mean, she's gone off with Diana somewhere. Oh, I do hope she doesn't stay gone too long.
Well, can't say that she will. Can't say that she won't. She might come right home, then again, she might not. You know, Marilla, there's sometimes I think you're a little hard on Anne, if you don't mind my saying so.
Well, I do mind your saying so, Matthew. So I'm hard on Anne, am I?
Now, don't get upset. I'm your brother, and your only brother, and the only one you'll ever have.
Thank goodness for that. So I'm hard on Anne, am I? Has she been complaining?
Now, you ought to know better than that, Marilla. Anne ain't the sort to complain. I was just thinking of the old saying when I remarked that.
What old saying?
Don't you remember? It goes something like this. Don't wait till I'm dead to put roses on my grave. Put them on now.
Put roses on your grave now. Matthew Cuthbert, are you a fool? Have you lost what little sense you have? How can you put roses on a grave before it's ever even graved? Did Anne tell that to you?
Well, I ain't saying that she did, and I ain't saying that she didn't. Ain't saying what she might have, and ain't saying what she might not have.
That means that she did. I might have known it was some of her tomfoolery. Oh, Matthew, have you seen my gold brooch, the one with the amethyst? I can't find it anywhere.
Did you look in your bureau?
I've looked high and low. I took out all the drawers. I looked in every crook and cranny. I can't find it.
Now, Marilla, this ain't the first time you've misplaced it. It must have fallen behind your bureau.
I've looked there, I tell you. I pulled it out and I moved everything in my room. That brooch is not to be found.
Well, now there's no sense in getting upset about it. You must keep calm.
Calm? Would you be calm if you lost a valuable brooch?
Well, I don't know. I can't say as to that. I've never had a valuable brooch to lose. Don't know that I would keep calm, and don't know that I wouldn't.
Oh, I do hope Anne hurries home. Miss Allan's coming this afternoon, and I've got so much to do.
Matthew, oh Matthew, I knew something terrible would happen.
Well, she's in trouble again.
What is it, Anne? What's the
Matthew,
trouble?
I knew something terrible would happen when you gave me that knife and I didn't have the money to give you in return. You see, Diana and I were running through the haunted forest. That's the name of the woods I've given just outside. And we were having the most wonderful time calling each other thee and thou and
Never mind that, Anne, now. I've got something important to ask you. You remember my gold brooch with the amethyst? Have you seen it?
Well, yes. I saw it yesterday while you were at the Aid Society. When I was passing your door, it just caught my attention. I only stopped to look at it for a minute.
Did you touch it? Tell me I want the truth.
Well, yes. I pinned it on only for a second, just to see how it would look.
You had no right to do anything of the sort. I told you not to meddle. You shouldn't have been in my room in the first place, and you shouldn't have touched something that didn't belong to you in the second place. Did you take it out? Where did you put it?
I put it back. I didn't realize that it was wrong to touch other people's things. But that's one good thing about me. I never make do the wrong thing twice.
And by your own confession, you were the last one to have seen my brooch. Did you take it and lose it?
No, Marilla. Honest, I didn't. I put it right back. I don't remember if I put it on the pincushion or on the china tray. But I'm honest I put it back.
And that brooch is gone, and nobody could have taken it but you.
Please, Marilla. I promise you I put it right back. Why, if I were to be led to the block, although I'm not sure what a block is, but I promise I didn't take it.
And I can tell that you're telling me a falsehood. I believe that you took my brooch. There'll be no picnic for you, and you'll not see Mrs. Allan when she comes this afternoon. You're to go to your room and stay there until you're ready to confess the truth about my brooch.
Not go to the picnic? And not see Mrs. Allan when I baked her that delicious layer cake. Oh, Marilla.
Anne, there's no sense in pleading. I believe you took my brooch. Now go to your room and don't you leave there. You stay there until you're ready to confess what you did with my brooch. Mind me now. I don't know what I would have dreaded more happening. I don't think she meant to steal it or anything like that. I think she just took it, played with it. She lost it. She's afraid to tell me about it. She's afraid I'll punish her. Well, Matthew, what have you to say to this?
What's the use, Marilla? You've said all there is to say and more.
Come on in, Mrs. Barry. Marilla won't mind.
Sorry to burst in on you like this, but I'm terribly upset. I'm afraid that my first estimate of Anne was wrong. She's absolutely vicious.
What's that?
She wasn't content to scare Diana half to death, telling her that the woods were haunted by ghosts and evil spirits. But on their way to my house this afternoon, she got Diana to pause while she cut a lock of her hair off with a knife she had.
The idea.
And that isn't all. She told Diana that the knife was a royal dagger and convinced her that they should play a game wherein Anne was Lucretia Borgia. I don't suppose she meant to hurt Diana, but she certainly did. She's got scratches and marks all over her throat.
Well, Matthew, what have you got to say to that?
Well, I don't know. I must say that it must have been kind of uncomfortable for Diana.
This is most regrettable, but I think in light of recent happenings, you'll understand my feelings when I say that the girls should be kept apart. I expect you to keep Anne away from my house. Good afternoon.
I never. What's next?
I'm so glad that woman's gone. I can't get a word in edgewise when she's around. You know, this is your fault, Marilla. You brought this on yourself. If you'd taken my advice, which you didn't, you'd have never let an orphan in your home.
Please, Marilla. I'm ready to confess now.
I thought so. Come here to me. Let me hear what you have to say.
I took your brooch, just like you said. When I pinned it on, it was so easy to imagine that I was Lady Cordelia Fitzgerald. But I just ran out of the house and started for the lake of shining water. And just as I got to the top of the bridge that crosses over it, I took it off, just to admire it. And that's when the awful thing happened.
You mean you lost my brooch?
Well, not exactly. You see, when I took it off, it just slipped out of my hands and fell into the water. I tried to get it back, but it was no use. It just sank down forevermore beneath the lake of shining water. And that's the best that I can do at confessing, Marilla.
Anne, this is terrible. It's wicked of you to take my brooch. You will have to be severely punished for this. There'll be no picnic, and you'll not see Mrs. Allan.
But I've got to see Mrs. Allan's heavenly expression on her face when she takes a bite of my delicious layered cake I baked for her. It's the whole reason I confessed.
There's no sense in pleading. You'll not see Mrs. Allan, and there'll be no picnic.
But I've got to go to the picnic. Marilla, think of the ice cream. Well, for all you know, I'll never taste ice cream again.
I'm not at all surprised she lost her brooch, Marilla. I've been expecting something like this to happen. Oh, I almost forgot why I actually came by here today. I came by to ask if I could borrow your black shawl. Though I hate to bother you when you're so upset.
I'll get it for you, Rachel. It's upstairs. Young lady, don't you dare leave this room while I'm gone.
Mrs. Barry is not going to let you see Diana anymore. You've played together for the last time.
Not see Diana? Oh, but I simply have to. I know. I'll go back to school. And if that a certain boy tries to talk to me, I just look right through it.
You're still not going to be able to speak to Diana, though.
Well, at least I'll partake of the joy of getting to look at her. And maybe someday Mrs. Barry will repent and allow Diana and I to play together again.
Well, I wonder who that could be. Oh, it's you, Moody. Come on in.
I brought your pig back, Mr. Matthew. She's in the barn.
You brought Dimples back. What'd you do that for, Moody?
Well, you see, sir, we want a healthy pig, and my pa's afraid that one ain't long for this world.
Now, that pig was in perfect condition when I saw her last.
Well, she's not now. She's got honey-colored blotches all over her. And we're scared to butcher her for the fear that we all get took sick.
Oh, Matthew, my troubles just keep piling up on me today. I'm responsible for the ugly blotches on Dimples.
Huh?
You see, while you and Marilla were out, a peddler came by. And he was selling freckle remover for only 10 cents. And it was his last bottle. So I bought it.
Now, Anne, what's that got to do with the pig?
Well, I know Dimples suffers from her freckles, the same as I do. So I put the freckle remover on her.
You put freckle remover on a pig, Aunt Shirley?
Yes, and now poor Dimples is all broken out. And my heart is breaking. I just felt it go dead inside. Matthew, you'll have to punish me severely for this one.
I don't know. I reckon Marilla's able to do enough punishing for the entire family. Come along, Moody. I'll get you a pig. One that's not tainted with freckle remover.
Oh, I'll see you at the picnic tomorrow, Ann. I'll buy you a soda pop if my dad gives me the money he owes me. Which you probably won't. Bye.
Hey, why would you put freckle remover on a pig?
Because I thought it'd be so romantic to cure Dimples of her freckles before I cure my own.
Anne Shirley, what do you mean by storying to me just then? When I went to get this shawl and get it off the trunk, there in the folds of it was this gold brooch. I remember I wore this shawl yesterday, and I put it up on the bureau for just a minute, and I guess somehow the brooch got caught in the folds of it. But I can't for the life of me figure out why you went through all that rigmarole about losing it.
Because you wouldn't believe me when I told you the truth. So I just imagined that I lost the brooch. Now may I please go cut the layer cake? Mrs. Allan will be here any moment.
Well, we were both wrong. You were wrong about confessing to something you hadn't done, and guess I just drove you to it. We'll say no more about it. You go and cut the cake for Miss Allan. We'll talk about the picnic later.
Oh,
Stop that. I don't believe in kissing and none of that foolishness. Go and cut the cake and mind that you're careful.
thank you, Marilla. Thank you.
Here's the shawl, Rachel. If it hadn't been for you, I wouldn't have known that my brooch wasn't at the bottom of a lake like I thought it might be.
You know, you made a mistake just now by saying Anne could go to the picnic. If you'd asked for my advice, which you didn't, I'd have said you're to make her stay home.
When I want your advice, I'll ask for it. Anne is my girl now, and I reckon I can raise her without any outside interference.
Well, you needn't bite my head off. Can a person say anything around here without being taken to task for it? I believe you enjoyed her kissing you just now.
That's rubbish and nonsense, and you know it. Oh dear, that's Mrs. Allan, and I meant to go get my lace collar that Anne gave me. Excuse me, Rachel, I've got to answer the door.
You can't fool me, Marilla. Mrs. Allan, Mrs. Lynde.
Oh, Mrs. Allan, come right in, won't you?
Where's that Anne girl?
She's cutting a special layer cake that she made specially for you. She's taken quite a fancy to you. Why don't you come in and sit? Be comfortable.
Thanks. She's a dear and so interesting. She makes me love her. I like it when people make me love them. Saves me the trouble of making myself love them.
Oh, Mrs. Allan, you look simply scrumptious. Just like a heroine in a novel.
Why, thank you, my dear.
I hope you like it. I followed Marilla's instructions implicitly.
This cake looks scrumptious, Anne. I know I'm going to enjoy this.
Here, Ann, give her lemonade.
The lemonade can wait, Anne. I want to get a taste of this cake first.
Do you like it, Mrs. Allan? Is it as good as it looks?
Well, I think there's something wrong with this cake, Anne.
Ann, what did you put in that cake?
Nothing, Marilla. Nothing except some vanilla extract.
Where did you get the vanilla extract from?
From the pantry, on the bottom shelf.
Oh, I might have known it. I poured that vanilla extract out into a cup. I put something else in that bottle.
Oh, Marilla, how awful. What'd you put in it?
That entire cake will have to be thrown out, or anybody who eats it will be poisoned.
Poison?
Anne has flavored that cake with chloroform liniment.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have a 15-minute intermission. We invite you to visit our concessions and take part in our 50-50 raffle. We will see you in 15 minutes.
Please enjoy our concessions and our 50-50 raffle.